Hey guys, we have lots of Superman news. The Superman movie is booming, and every day new stuff is coming out about the film from the cast promoting it, like this beautiful behind-the-scenes video of David Corenswet and his dog. And honestly, they are doing really well with the movie's marketing. I really enjoy seeing these videos of the actors promoting the film. You can clearly see the happiness of the actors and the production team promoting it. It's so lovely to watch. Let's also discuss this new TV spot for Superman because there were some controversies involving that scene where Superman talks to Lex Luthor about his humanity. Additionally, we will talk about color grading because it's official now. They completely changed it, and we can even compare the color grading of this new spot with that of the previous trailer. You'll notice that it was bluer before and now has warmer colors. You can see a big difference in these ads. Well, I'm not usually one to comment on posters, but this one here is one of the best superhero posters I've ever seen. We'll also discuss this new image of David Corenswet flying, which is that scene we've seen before in teasers, and you can see they fixed David Corenswet's face. There's also news about the Clayface movie because James Gunn mentioned there's a strong possibility it will be rated R. So folks, today we have a lot to cover in today's video, but before we start, don't forget to hit that like button, comment below, and subscribe for more content like this. Also follow us on our other social media platforms, Instagram and Threads. I'll keep you updated on this universe we love so much. All right, let's start by talking about Superman news. At least 4 new ads for the Superman movie have come out. You know those ads that play on TV where we see various scenes from the film? I'd say the most important scene was this one involving Superman with Krypto in space. And man, what a beautiful scene. You remember last year when they released that image of Superman next to Krypton in space? Everyone said, no way, that looks so bad. It's a kid's movie and all that stuff. James Gunn even said, it wasn't an official scene from the movie. Now we're seeing an official scene from the film, and look how beautiful this is. I even saw some people saying this could be the final scene of the movie. But could it be? Do you think it could really be the last scene? Because I'm not sure they'd spoil something that big, you know? The last scene in an ad, it could be like a scene before the third act, but I don't think it's that. I also compiled some beautiful scenes from the Superman movie here. This film really has some stunning visuals. Some shots are truly beautiful. My favorites so far are this one of the Fortress of Solitude from afar, and this one where Superman is inside the Fortress of Solitude, and definitely that space scene with Superman and Krypto. Those were among my favorites. But there's also this other one from this new Superman spot. What a beautiful frame. They even made an edit to pull out the colors from the background and leave it black and white while only making Superman colored. People started saying it looked like an Alex Ross art piece. I don't think David Corenswet looks much like Alex Ross's Superman. His body and face are very different, but the whole framing of the shot feels very much like an Alex Ross comic book style, which shows a bit about the movie's quality because we're seeing this scene, which is actually quite a simple composition when you go to film it, because you put the camera in front of the actor and 90% chance he's in front of a green screen. And I think that proves how good the effects in this movie are. You know, even though there's some scenes where I think the CGI isn't good, but here in this scene of Superman hovering in the air, it's very Superman. It really has an otherworldly aura. But really, it's very beautiful. The composition, the framing, and everything else is truly stunning. There are still 2 other important things about these new ads. One involves the dialogue Superman has with Lois. It's about his purpose on Earth because his parents, right? Kryptonians wanted him to do good. This scene seems really important for the film story because it shows what Superman understands his biological parents wanted when he was sent to Earth. It also seems like this scene will happen during that interview with Lois. It's a cool dialogue, and you can tell this interview scene will be crucial for the film. It might be one of the best exchanges of dialogue we'll have in the movie. The other important line involves Superman talking to Lex. This was the most controversial line because Superman's saying he loves that he has invulnerability, right? He says he's afraid, and that's what makes him human. Basically, that's a summary of the line. And look, I'm really trying to understand why people were complaining about this line because I found it an absolutely beautiful, heartfelt dialogue. You know, a line only Superman would say. It's so much Superman vibe. I really don't get how people don't understand. You know, even though Superman is super powerful, he also feels fear. He loves too. He feels pain. Those are basic things for a normal human being. I know some people fear that Superman will be nerfed and become more human than Kryptonian like in Burns' run. That post-crisis run from the 80s In general, many Superman fans don't like that phase because it tried to update Superman for a new generation starting to read comics, a generation wanting more serious comics. So at that time, DC thought it might be more interesting to remove various elements from Superman's story to tell new stories. They removed a lot from the Silver Age and changed a bit his relationship with his Kryptonian heritage to make people like him more and relate better to him. They emphasized Clark's human side more and reduced Krypton elements. But overall, I'm summarizing this issue because there are many more reasons behind it. But generally speaking, many fans dislike Byrne's run for this reason, and their fear seems to be that James Gunn's Superman might have that Byrne vibe, focusing more on his human side than his Kryptonian side without trying to balance them out as he ideally should. Now, this is me trying to understand. In my opinion, that's a total Superman line. It has nothing to do with Byrne or with the era or decade he's being written in or preferences Gunn might have when adapting his ideal Superman, because I can't think that Superman doesn't have these feelings because it's obvious, it's clear that Superman loves, it's clear he fears, it's clear he'll face difficulties, but as a being from another planet living alongside humans, he learned to have these emotions, and that's how he understands what it means to be human. But honestly, I wanted to understand the point of view of the people who didn't like this line, like the color grading issue. Those are small things, but this one, I just can't understand why it became a controversy. You know, I really can't get it. Anyway, there was also that scene with Superman being exposed to crypto and grabbing this person's arm, who is Metamorpho. And that confirms again for us that Metamorpho is being manipulated by Lex Luthor. So probably Lex Luthor is going to use Metamorpho to weaken Superman so he can be trapped in this place where Lex keeps various metahumans. But what I'm most curious about in this scene is how Metamorpho will come together with Superman. Will Superman somehow motivate Metamorpho to join him? That's something I'm really curious to find out. All right, moving on to the next topic. Let's talk about the Superman poster. And wow, what a beautiful poster. This poster is really awesome. In fact, this movie hasn't had a bad poster. All of them are very good, but sometimes I like posters that try to break the mold, and this one does just that. Of course, it actually references Donner's films. You can see that at the bottom with the characters' faces in those little squares. But the aesthetics of this poster are perfect. I liked how it references the old one without being just a reference because it's beautiful on its own, you know. Superman in that pose, which was also shown back in Superman Returns, but he's above the S. I think that's so elegant. But the most beautiful part of all is the cape. Look at that effect with the cape coming out of the frame. Man, this is a poster worthy of Superman. All right, moving on to the next topic, which is photography. In this new spot, we got an update on some scenes. Until now, we had seen that the color grading had changed, but we couldn't compare it with other scenes. Now we can. You're seeing comparisons between scenes from previous trailers and new ones. You can see that one was more bluish, while another has warmer colors. Overall, I think the warmer colors are much better, especially in those city scenes. I think it has more to do with Superman, right? Warmer colors make the city look a bit yellower, which reminds us of that golden metropolis that everyone loves. Of course, they didn't want to create a golden metropolis as it looks in comics, but this color grading they use now makes things look more yellowish and beautiful. I think it fits perfectly with Superman. In my opinion, this color grading is great. I don't have much to complain about, but considering it's a blockbuster movie that relies heavily on action scenes, I think James Gunn made the right decision for the film's photography. The only thing I've seen people complain about regarding this color grading is that in the Fortress of Solitude scenes, it matched better with a bluish tone. I can see the logic there, but also, right? The film has to maintain aesthetic coherence. I don't see films changing color grading all the time just because they're in different places. So I think you had to choose one and stick with it until the end. Now let's talk about that flying scene of Superman. As you can see in this image taken from another TV spot, you can see they fixed David Corenswet's face. The quality is also a bit off, just like when we saw Superman looking cross-eyed before. They fixed cross-eyed Superman. David Corenswet is no longer cross-eyed. James Gunn explained that this shot, that scene, was him flying against a real background. The true background he talks about are real places in Svalbard. They put it in the background as if it were a chroma key application. But you see in this image that it's no longer a cross-eyed Superman. Obviously, I told you he wouldn't appear cross-eyed in the movie, and that's something a filmmaker like James Gunn wouldn't let happen, especially since it ruins the whole movie, right? Even though he said no, he was looking at a big wide-angle lens. Like, that has nothing to do with it. He was cross-eyed because he got cross-eyed. So sometimes you see a trailer or a TV spot, they always pick some different moments there. You see some different scenes. And sometimes there are things there that aren't in the movie. That's why sometimes CGI looks bad there, but in the movie, it looks good. And depending on it, can look bad there and also bad in the movie. I don't know how the CGI of this movie will be. But I see that no one praises Crypto, right? I think it's funny. The CGI critics online keep looking for flaws, but I don't see anyone talking about Crypto. Like, no one goes and praises how perfect the visual work of this character is, that James Gunn worked with his team. Obviously, if you have a multi-million-dollar production, you won't make crappy CGI, right? If the Superman budget is $225 million, we expect a great film visually, too. It's not just about making any old film, right? Sometimes films need more time to be ready, depending on the type of film, but I don't see anyone saying good things about Crypto's CGI. All right, moving to the last topic, which is Clayface. As you know, right, the actor for Clayface has been cast, and there's this rumor that the character won't be named Basil Karlo, but rather Matt Hagen, but he'll basically have Basil Karlo's origin story, and I really believe this rumor because Mike Flanagan, right, the screenwriter for the film, already said he was inspired by Batman, the animated series, and in that animated series, exactly the same thing happens. Matt Hagen is basically Basil Karlo, but with the name Matt Hagen. Now, the most important thing is that James Gunn said there's a strong possibility this film will be rated R, and for him to make such a statement means it's quite likely. And I say this because rated R means fewer showings available. Being rated R usually keeps audiences away, but I also see the positive side because now being rated R, you can really explore without limits or censorship or any of that stuff in the genre this film has, which is primarily a horror film. I'm even happy it's rated R because I don't want any kind of censorship on Clayface transforming and killing people. But we also have to understand that it's a film about a C-level Batman villain. So that's it. The movie comes out next September. I think it's hard for this movie to make money. If this movie makes $200 million, it'll be a big surprise. But I'm still hoping Batman will appear. But folks, these are the doubts about Superman and DCU. Comment below what you thought about all this, and don't forget to hit like and subscribe for more content like this. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.